Okay, welcome to Salcedo Paranormal. It is Wednesday, June 22nd, 2022. And tonight I will be doing a book review of two books, actually. But as always, you can find all the episodes of Salcedo Paranormal, along with links to the show, to social media, ways to donate, and ways to contact me at the podcast page, which is salcidoparanormal.podbean.com. It's SALSIDO paranormal.podbean.com. Always happy to hear from you all, whether you have comments or questions or topic suggestions, or if you have stories of experiences you'd like to share. Whether you want to send them to me in a text format so I can read them, or if you want to join me on the show to talk about them in person. So, a couple of things before I get to the book review. You may have noticed I have not been around for almost a week. But I am back, and I have changed the schedule again, but hopefully it's for the last time. The show will now be 3 days a week instead of 5. Just because 5 days a week was a lot of work to do. So it'll be Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday from now on at 8 p.m. Eastern. And that's for the live streams. And then, of course, the show will always come out the next day. And that should allow me to have more time to do the research I need, and also just take in more content and information that will help the show as well. So I believe that covers all of that. Thank you all for all your support and for listening, whether you're here for the live stream or you listen to the podcast or YouTube feeds. Those numbers are still going up, and like I said, I really appreciate it. So, and again, as I always say with these book review episodes, there will be spoilers, but also these are reviews, and that means they're summaries, so I would definitely recommend checking out the books. Even the things I discuss, I won't be able to get to everything in each book. So there's plenty there to still surprise you, I imagine, when you read them. So I guess with that, we can get to the reviews. So let's see here. Let me get to the from the web. So this first book I wanted to review is Salem's Lot from Stephen King. These are both from Stephen King. And this is actually the first book of his I ever read. It came out in 1975, so a little while ago. And of course I read it in middle school because perfectly fine book to read in middle school, I guess. But either way, I read it. And it was really my first exposure to a book that involved vampires. And that is kind of the main thing in the book here. But so this book is about the small town, as a lot of King's books are. About the small town called Jerusalem's Lot, or Salem's Lot. And the book follows, of course, several characters. And, but, so let's see here, I'll get to this summary here. So the book starts out with a writer, novelist, who comes back to this town. His name is Benjamin Mears. and he's coming back to this town, Jerusalem's Lot, Maine, after 25 years since being there last as a child, and looking for inspiration or at least a new place to a different place to work on his next book. And while he's there, he makes friends. One is a teacher at the high school named Matt Burke, and also basically begins a romantic relationship with Susan Norton, who is just graduated from college recently and also lives in the town. And the subject of the book that Ben wants to write is this place called the Marston House. It's basically an abandoned house, and it turns out as a kid he had been dared to run into the house, and when he did, he saw basically the ghost of the original owner, Hubert Marston, even though he didn't know that then, hanging from the ceiling in a room. But it was just apparition, basically. And Marston was a Depression-era hitman. And so basically this little boy runs into this place on a dare to retrieve an object from the house to prove he was in there. And he sees this apparition. So cut back to the present. This house has been purchased by Kurt Barlow, who is an Austrian immigrant who has arrived in the U.S. and in Salem's Lot to open an antique furniture store. So, but Barlow does not show up for a while. His business partner, Richard Straker, is seen in public handling everything. But it turns out that Barlow is actually an ancient vampire, and Straker is just a regular human who acts in Barlow's place. So as these two arrive, there is this disappearance of a local boy, and the death of his brother, who basically once this younger brother dies, he comes back as the town's first vampire by Barlow. And throughout the story, people slowly start vanishing and then reappear in the story as vampires. But it's a slower process, so the people in the town, including Ben and Matt and Susan and others, don't realize what's going on at first. Now, so this vampire boy, Danny Glick, tries to turn his classmate, Mark Petrie, into a vampire, but fails. And so, of course, this is where all the characters start to meet more often and come together and realize what's going on. And they're joined by others, Dr. Jimmy Cody, along with the local priest, Father Callahan. And so that's how the story goes, really, is this hunt for Barlow and other vampires to try to take them down. And of course, in typical King fashion, the things don't go terribly well for everyone. And at one point, Callahan, the Father Callahan meets Barlow in a face-off in Mark Petrie's house, where Barlow kills Petrie's parents. And so the Barlow and Callahan have this confrontation. And so in the end, Barlow overtakes Callahan and forces Callahan to drink Barlow's blood, making him unclean. And according to the characters and to the story here. And basically what that means is Callahan can't re-enter his church. He when he tries to open the door, he receives an electric shock that throws him back from the doors of his own church. And so Callahan ends up leaving Salem's Lot, basically knowing that he failed. And then, so eventually, Ben and Mark are the only ones that are left available to fight, basically, or to even try to survive. And they do. They make it out of the city, the town, but no one is ever the same, and the area has been taken over mostly by vampires, who now, at this point, don't have their master, because at one point they're able to. Let's see here. 1 second, I gotta check on something. So, I don't remember if they actually killed. I apologize. I'm blanking on if what happens with Barlow, but you know what? That's okay. More for you all to check out. So, basically the two, Ben and Mark, leave the town for a while, and what they end up doing is they end up starting a brush fire that sweeps over the town and kills most of the vampires while they're sleeping in the daytime. So it's a really good book overall. Obviously, it's a little bit different at this point because it is from that time period. So it may seem a little bit dated, but still a really good book, and definitely full of a lot of surprises. And the reason I'm sharing this before I get to the Fifth Dark Tower book will become obvious as I go through that book, that summary for that book. So, but yeah, thank you all again for being here. I'm just checking in everything, and everything looks okay so far. It's funny, I had totally forgotten that I hadn't looked into the way my recording software recently changed until I went to start the stream today. So, but I'm glad everything is going okay. So, as everyone knows, I've been here and there covering the different books in the Dark Tower series, which is really at the heart of King's fictional multiverse. And it is that, definitely. And we've made it through the first 4 books. The last one I reviewed was Wizard in Glass. And so in a moment, I will get to the next one, which is Wolves of the Calla. So one moment here while I get some water, and then we will begin. Okay. I was sick for a while, but I'd say 90% better, 95% better, but still trying to take it easy as well. just to ease back into things. So, and water definitely helps. So let's see here. All right. So we made it through Salem's Lot. Again, the summary I have doesn't really give details on everything that happens, and I've forgotten some things. So definitely check out that book. So this is, again, I'm reviewing Wolves of the Calla, which is the Dark Tower, Book 5. This is about Roland Deschain, and he is a gunslinger. He has been tasked with finding the Dark Tower at the center of all reality to hopefully fix reality, because time and space are breaking down, not acting as they should. And that, excuse me, that is the general premise of the series. And of course, at this point, Roland has new allies, Eddie and Susanna Dean, and then Jake Chambers. And all three of those are from New York, but at different points in time, ranging from the early 70s to the early 80s, I believe. So at the end of book 4, the team had just encountered and had a battle with Randall Flagg, who again comes up in other King books, including this one. And one moment, please. Okay. And he had basically tried to convince them to give up the search for the tower, and they refused. And so he sent them on their way. And after they tried to kill him, of course, because he is has done many things in the series and also in other books that not so good. And so they let's see here. I lost a place. Okay. So they're still on the path of one of these energy beams heading towards the tower. And as they're traveling, they realize they're being followed. And but it's not by anyone that is necessarily dangerous. At the same time, the group starts having these strange dream experiences where they're almost like out of body, but their body isn't even visible when these dreams are happening. It's almost like they're being teleported to these out of their area where they're at and to New York. Back to New York, but there's this energy field that is almost like a placeholder where they were laying every time this happens, and that goes for all of them. But so in this first experience, Jake and Eddie go back to New York in 1977, and they see a bookstore owner named Calvin Tower. Now, Calvin Tower was in the earlier books. He was actually in the Wastelands. He was basically, let me see here. Jake Chambers went into Tower's bookstore and to get a couple of books actually that proved to be sort of clues or signals to what's going on with the Dark Tower. And so, but in this experience, Jake and Eddie see what happens in the bookshop on a different time, not when Jake is there. They see that, or they find out that Tower owns the vacant lot that houses this Rose that is the physical manifestation of the Dark Tower. And now Jake encountered this rose in the wastelands as well. Again, there's so much in these books that I don't think I mentioned those things happening. Um, but that's the part of the trade off of doing these kind of shows, these review shows. So Jake and Eddie, while they're there, see basically criminals that show up at the bookstore. And they're criminals that that Eddie knows from his own time in New York. They're the same criminals that kidnapped Eddie's brother and ended up killing Eddie's brother. In a possibly different universe. And these criminals are trying to convince or to coerce Tower into selling the lot with the rose on it to this mysterious Sombra Corporation, which is really an extension of the forces of the Crimson King, which is the main enemy in this entire series. The force opposing Roland and all of the heroes that are with him. And they also figure out that if this happens, if the rose is the lot is purchased, the rose will be destroyed, and then that will destroy the Dark Tower, which will destroy all of reality. So, so of course that's where that vision of everything ends for Jake and Eddie, and they learn about all this. Now, at this point, the people that are following the group come forward, and it turns out they're residents of a farming village named Calibran Sturgis. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. As well as Father Callahan, who is with them. And of course, at this point in the story, you don't know why. Now again, Callahan is from Salem's Lot. Now this book came out in 2003, I believe it says here. And so I had read Salem's Lot back in the 90s. So I was quite surprised when this happened in this book. When Callahan showed up. He shows up earlier, but just in the summary, just in terms of this book in general, I was really surprised. But Callahan shows up with these basically farmers. And they get together with the gunslingers and basically explain to them that there are these forces known as the wolves of Thunderclap, and these wolves come once a generation to take one child from each pair of the town's twins, those that are born twins. And for some reason, all children in that town and in the area in general, with only a few exceptions, are born twins. So it's almost like it's all set up in a certain way. So after a few months of being away, the children are then returned, but they're ruined. They're mentally handicapped, and they grow to enormous size, but then also die young. And the wolves, at this point in this story, are due to arrive in about a month, according to the villagers and Andy, who is this robot android, who is also with them. And so there again, you're getting into this mix of your Western and your sci-fi and your paranormal. And everyone asks Andy about the wolves because Andy has been around in the area for generations. But for some reason, Andy cannot do that without a password from his makers, basically, whoever made him or whatever made him. And so that's why these people have been following the gunslingers to ask for help. And so the gunslingers go to the village to see what they can do and to meet everyone. And while they're there, of course, Father Callahan, who now just goes by Callahan, explains how he traveled across the country, but then later on found out he was traveling across different dimensions or different parallel universes in order to escape from various vampires and other creatures that were after him, after Callahan. Because this whole time, Callahan figures out how to easily kill lesser vampires whenever he encounters them. And so there's this really interesting part in this section where every day Callahan wakes up in this hotel that he stays at for a while. And just in general, he wakes up in a different dimension, an alternate universe. And he knows which one he's in, or roughly, based on the colors of his hotel room and surroundings, and by the faces on the various denominations of U.S. currency. They change from one universe to another. And so and it turns out Callahan eventually entered the gunslingers world not long after Jake did. Apparently, and all this was orchestrated by the Man in Black, also known as Flag. And so there's more details to all of that, but again, that's another story within a story. But at one point, Callahan is sent to through a doorway, along with the box that contains another one of these bends of the rainbow, which are these spheres that have mystical powers. And he has the most dangerous one of them all, which is known as Black 13. And he and the sphere appear in a cave near the village known as Doorway Cave, because there is a doorway in that cave. And they figure out that Black 13 is what caused the various dreams that sent Eddie and Jake to New York in that weird dream state traveling experience. And also, Roland thinks that it's capable of letting them travel between worlds. So, what they want to do when they can is use this orb to travel back to New York, 1977, to stop these criminals led by Balazar, who was the head of that organization that also controlled Eddie for a while. Stop them from taking ownership of the lot with the rose on it. So, and they use this. They end up doing this, but only a couple of them go just to be safe. And Roland uses this Black 13, this orb, to let Eddie go back to New York. And, of course, Eddie does find Balazar's men and threatens them and warns them against attacking or pressuring Kelvin Tower for that lot. But he also tells Tower that Balazar will come back and that Tower should flee and leave a message for Roland's group so that they can find him again. Now, Tower agrees to do this, but in exchange, he makes Eddie take his most valuable books, Tower's most valuable books, to Roland's world. And so, of course, Eddie doesn't want to, but he does. And so this is a bit of a long summary, but it's a long book. But let me see here. So meanwhile, through all of this, the group is planning on how they're going to defend against the wolves. And they're also trying to figure out what these wolves are. So, yeah, let's see here. Just looking at, oh wow, okay, yeah. Thank you all in chat. I'm seeing all these pictures that Derek has put, and yeah. So, and then thank you all for the welcome back. Again, check out the live stream. I always say that because normally anyone who's there, if they can, they'll post pictures of these things that we're talking about. And so yeah, preparations are made for the arrival of these wolves. And it turns out these wolves visit all of the farming communities in this general area. Now, while they're planning everything, the defense and the battle to come, Roland and Jake start noticing changes in Susanna Dean's behavior, which are linked to the events in the wastelands where Susan had to basically wrestle with a what they call a demon in this universe to in order to give everyone time to get Jake back into their universe. And Roland tells Eddie that he believes Susan has been impregnated by this thing. So you have non-physical beings that have somehow managed to basically mate with Susanna, and they don't know. Roland doesn't know what's going to happen, and so, and they don't know what's going on if there's another personality. Again, Susanna had a history of that before, but they also have so much to deal with these wolves that, and then Susanna even reveals that she thinks something is going on, that that they have to put that aside for the time being. But Susanna does admit that there is a second personality living in her, known as Mia, which is daughter of none. It is in like Roland's language. So, meanwhile, through all of this, Jake finds out that Andy, this robot, is from the wolves, from the same place as the wolves, which is Thunderclap, which is this dark, mysterious area just beyond all the villages. And it turns out Jake's new friend, another boy, his father, have been feeding information to the wolves, to the people in charge of the wolves. Regarding Roland and all their activities. And so Jake manages to escape, but now he knows that Andy is not on the side of the village, and neither is Ben Slightman, who is the father of Jake's new friend that he made in this village. Now, eventually, as they're getting ready for this battle, they figure out a way to destroy Andy, and basically, destroys Andy so that Andy can't help with the wolves, give the wolves any more information. So the time arrives when these wolves are going to show up, and it turns out the wolves are not living, but they're also like Andy. They're robots, and they have one that is basically their weakness, and they have one main weakness, which is this almost like a satellite dish that is used to control them, and it's on the top of their head, but it's hidden. And that's their weakest point, because that's their link to their controllers. And the wolves show up and attack, and this is where this got really interesting to me. They have their weapons that they use are items based on different items in popular fiction. They use almost like lightsabers, these energy swords, and then they also use these grenade type things that are automated, that can seek and destroy targets in different ways, and they're modeled after these golden snitches from Harry Potter. And then, of course, the lightsabers are modeled after Star Wars. Now, these wolves wear these cloaks that are green, and they look a lot like Doctor Doom from Marvel Comics. So, and these are things that are not native to, of course, to Roland's world. So, in the end, the wolves are stopped, and the children that would have been abducted are saved. But after the battle, Mia takes over Susanna and leaves the area through the doorway cave. She uses Black 13 to take herself to New York, but they don't know where, what time period. Of course, everyone follows her, but they are too late, and Black 13 is gone. Now, while they're there, they find the books from Kelvin Tower while they're looking through these books. And one of the books that's in this collection is Salem's Lot. So, as in the novel, King's own novel, that features Callahan. And Callahan, of course, cannot believe this, because he's not fictional in his mind, in this universe. And that's really basically where the book ends. So it's quite the ride. It really is. There's a lot going on. Again, mixing different levels of fiction and universes within universes are connected anyway. Um, so it was an amazing read, and so yeah, that's basically that book. Again, as I always say, this is just a summary, and there's so much more. Um, but so that's book 5 of that series. So I think that'll do it for today. Um, I yeah, I definitely recommend checking out this series. It has its moments that I don't care for as much, but it has many others that I do like. And just the blending of the what's real, what's not, what's what's real here may not be real there. Um, Stephen King including himself in different ways in different universes within his own writing. I At first I didn't like the idea of anyone having to do that or doing that in their own work. But yeah, that's I think he did it in a very neat way. So I'm okay with that overall. But so yeah, that's it for today. Again, starting a new schedule. It's Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern. And so the next show will be Friday night. And let's see here. Looking at the chat here. So Marvel does kind of does a version of that, sort of with Jack Kirby. Basically, okay. Being the god of the Marvel Universe. Neat. Okay. Um, so yeah. Thank you all again. I'm just glad to be back doing this. I missed it, even though it was only a week. And so I will see you all back here on Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, for the next episode of Salcedo Paranormal. Take care.